Yes, it is code compliant to install aluminum SCR cable and rigid non-metallic conduit underground, provided all requirements of the National Electrical Code are met. The NEC, which is the standard for electrical installations, permits various wiring methods for underground applications. One must consider several factors to ensure the installation is compliant. Firstly, the specific type of SCR cable used must be listed and labeled for direct burial or installed in a raceway approved for underground use. Secondly, rigid non-metallic conduit, often referred to as PVC conduit, is an approved raceway for underground installations. It is resistant to corrosion and suitable for protecting electrical conductors in direct burial applications. Thirdly, the NEC dictates the required burial depth for electrical conduits. The depth depends on the voltage level and the location of the conduit, such as under a driveway or in a residential area. Table 300.5 outlines the minimum cover requirements for various wiring methods and voltage levels. For instance, for residential branch circuits rated at 120 volts or 240 volts, a minimum cover depth of 12 inches is typically required for rigid non-metallic conduit. However, this can vary based on specific conditions and local amendments. Fourthly, when installing aluminum SCR cable and conduit, it is essential to ensure that the conduit is adequately sized to accommodate the cable. The NEC specifies fill requirements for conduits, limiting the percentage of the conduit's cross-sectional area that can be occupied by conductors. Chapter 9, Table 1 provides the maximum allowable fill percentages for different types of conduits and conductors. Fifthly, proper sealing of the conduit is necessary to prevent moisture and debris from entering the raceway. Conduit fittings and sealing methods should be suitable for the environment and approved for use with the specific type of conduit. Sixthly, aluminum SCR cable must be suitable for wet locations if installed underground. The cable's insulation should be rated for direct burial and exposure to moisture. Type XHHW-2 or RHW-2 insulation is commonly used for underground applications due to its moisture resistance. Seventhly, when transitioning from underground to above ground, the NEC requires the use of appropriate fittings and protection to prevent physical damage to the cable. This may involve the use of a conduit riser or other approved method to protect the cable as it emerges from the ground. Eighthly, the aluminum SCR cable must be properly supported and secured within the conduit. The NEC provides guidelines for supporting conductors in vertical and horizontal conduit runs. Ninthly, it is crucial to use compatible connectors and fittings when connecting the aluminum SCR cable to electrical equipment. Aluminum conductors require connectors specifically designed for aluminum to prevent corrosion and ensure a reliable connection. Tenthly, grounding and bonding requirements must be followed according to NEC Article 250. The metal conduit must be properly grounded to ensure a safe and effective ground fault path. 11thly, local codes and amendments may impose additional requirements or restrictions on underground electrical installations. It is essential to consult with a local electrical inspector or authority having jurisdiction to ensure compliance with all applicable regulations. 12thly, the ampacity of the aluminum SCR cable must be selected based on the anticipated load and the temperature rating of the conductors. The NEC provides ampacity tables that specify the allowable current carrying capacity of conductors based on their size, insulation type, and ambient temperature. 13thly, overcurrent protection devices, such as circuit breakers or fuses, must be properly sized to protect the aluminum SCR cable from overload and short circuits. The overcurrent protection should not exceed the ampacity of the cable. 14thly, the installation must comply with all applicable NEC requirements for working space around electrical equipment. Sufficient space must be provided to allow for safe and easy access for maintenance and repairs. 15thly, it is essential to use approved tools and equipment for installing the aluminum SCR cable and conduit. This includes conduit benders, cable pullers, and other specialized tools that ensure professional and safe installation. 16thly, the installation should be inspected and approved by a qualified electrical inspector before being energized. The inspector will verify that the installation complies with all applicable codes and standards. 17thly, all electrical work should be performed by a qualified and licensed electrician who is familiar with the NEC and local codes. This ensures that the installation is safe and compliant. 18thly, documentation of the installation, including permits, inspection reports, and wiring diagrams, should be maintained for future reference. This documentation can be helpful for troubleshooting and maintenance purposes. 19thly, it is important to consider the environmental conditions when selecting materials and installation methods for underground electrical systems. Soil conditions, moisture levels, and potential exposure to chemicals can affect the performance and lifespan of the installation. 20thly, regular maintenance and inspection of the underground electrical system are essential to ensure its continued safe and reliable operation. This includes checking for signs of corrosion, damage, or deterioration and addressing any issues promptly. 21stly, when installing multiple conduits underground, it is important to maintain proper spacing between them to allow for adequate heat dissipation. The NEC provides guidelines for conduit spacing in underground installations. 22ndly, the use of tracer wire is recommended for underground electrical installations. Tracer wire is a conductive wire that is buried alongside the conduit and can be used to locate the conduit in the future using a cable locator. 23rdly, it is important to avoid installing underground electrical conduits in areas where they may be subject to physical damage from digging or other activities. If this is unavoidable, additional protection, such as concrete encasement, may be required. 24thly, the NEC requires that all electrical equipment be listed and labeled by a recognized testing laboratory, such as Underwriters Laboratories UL. This ensures that the equipment has been tested and meets safety standards. 25thly, when installing aluminum SER cable and conduit, it is important to avoid damaging the cable insulation. Sharp edges or rough surfaces on the conduit can damage the insulation and create a potential safety hazard. 26thly, the NEC provides guidelines for the use of antioxidant compounds on aluminum conductors. These compounds help to prevent corrosion and ensure a reliable connection. 27thly, it is important to follow the manufacturer's instructions for installing and terminating aluminum SER cable. The manufacturer's instructions provide valuable information on proper installation techniques and safety precautions. 28thly, when installing underground electrical systems, it is important to consider the potential for future expansion or modifications. The installation should be designed to allow for easy addition of new circuits or equipment. 29thly, the NEC requires that all electrical panels and enclosures be properly labeled with the circuit information. This helps to identify the circuits and prevent accidental disconnections or overloads. 30thly, it is important to keep the area around underground electrical equipment clear of vegetation and debris. This helps to prevent damage to the equipment and ensures easy access for maintenance. 31stly, the NEC provides guidelines for the use of surge protection devices to protect electrical equipment from voltage surges. Surge protection is particularly important for sensitive electronic equipment. 32ndly, it is important to be aware of the potential hazards associated with working around electricity. Always follow proper safety procedures and use appropriate personal protective equipment. 33rdly, the NEC requires that all electrical work be inspected and approved by a qualified electrical inspector. The inspector will verify that the installation complies with all applicable codes and standards. 34thly, it is important to maintain accurate records of all electrical work performed. These records can be helpful for troubleshooting and maintenance purposes. 35thly, the NEC is updated every 3 years. It is important to stay up to date on the latest changes to the code to ensure compliance. 36thly, local codes and amendments may vary from the NEC. It is important to consult with the local electrical inspector or authority having jurisdiction to ensure compliance with all applicable regulations. In summary, compliance hinges on using appropriately rated and listed SER cable, correct conduit type and burial depth per table 300.5, proper conduit fill, sealed connections, suitable connectors for aluminum, adherence to grounding and bonding requirements per Article 250, and compliance with local codes.